Welcome back to College Football Addiction. Been a little while since we had one of my favorites on, Sports Talk Jay, to talk a little Tennessee playoff football. There were times this year, Jay, where we didn't think that this would happen, or we thought that the chances of this happening were maybe on life support, but it did. And Tennessee's in the playoff. How much of it is like just you want to go win? Right, you want to go to Columbus and win the game. Tennessee's not here for a participation trophy by any means. But how much of it is just a relief that you made it, that you got in, and almost like a weight off the shoulders of like, okay, we can just breathe a little bit?
It's all of that. First of all, we are thrilled to be in the play. I mean, thrilled to be in. We have not been in the playoff in forever, of any playoff. It's been since Philip Fulmer that we were even in the national championship situation. We were 2 years ago. And I don't want to get into the whole sign stealing thing in South Carolina and do all that. But that was the last time. It was like Josh Heupel got us to the cusp. And then this year, it's kind of that same situation. Now we're in and we're fired up as can be. And, of course, we're playing a team that's got more talent than us. But we're so excited. And, of course, we love our coach. So it's really been a very interesting journey.
Well, I can tell you the other side doesn't love their coach right now, as you may know, or you may be aware of. I know you do more than just Tennessee, and you cover a lot of national storylines and stuff. But I know you watched our video with Zach Smith. I watched your episode with it, and to me, there is just no pressure on Tennessee in this thing at all, right? Nobody really expects them to win. Now, I think people think Tennessee's capable of winning. I don't think it's a Boise State or a situation like Clemson in Texas. Like, I think people think Tennessee is capable, but I just feel like none of the pressure is on them, right? The only pressure that should be on Tennessee is pressure they put on themselves, and I think that's going to help, right? Tennessee finished the year very differently than Ohio State did, and I think they should be able to go out and play pretty loose on Saturday.
Yeah, I've had a situation where we had a coach that people didn't like, and it never ends well. You think it's going to. It's like, well, let's just hold out hope. And that doesn't mean they'll lose Saturday. It means they could win and then maybe lose going forward. But it never works out. For some reason, when the crowd or the fan base turns on a coach, it usually 90% of the time plus it ends badly. And I feel bad for the Ohio State fans because they've been the bridesmaid recently quite a bit. And it's very frustrating to have the talent level they have, which is high. I mean, it's way up there. And they know they could win it all, and it just hadn't happened for them. So I don't know. I think maybe they're a little spoiled, which is, great teams are. Alabama's spoiled, Georgia's spoiled. We're not. We are not spoiled at all. We're thrilled to be going. And we've been having tons of fun with Ohio State, doing all kinds of shenanigans because we're crazy. It's just how the Vols are.
Tell me about this. Is it Neyland North? Tell me a little bit about this.
There are multiple shenanigans going on. We have this thing that's called Vol Twitter, and they are a bunch of nutcases. I'll just go ahead and tell you. And they love their Vols. They love them as much as they love giving the other teams grief. It's just what they do. Well, they found out about the flag planting, and then it was going to be a felony up in Ohio because of this lawmaker that got, you know how they do. So they were like, oh, you're sensitive. You're very sensitive. You didn't like that. So we started doing all kinds of Twitter. They put out a diagram of how they're going to take the goalpost down, where to take it, and how to dump it into the river, which they've got a river right beside the stadium, just like Neyland. So they put that on Twitter, and it went viral. Just big time viral. Then they started today. They had Wikipedia. They went to Wikipedia and somehow got Neyland North put into their Wikipedia nicknames for the stadium, which is the horseshoe, the shoe, and now it says Neyland North. I don't know how the crap they did that. It's crazy. And then on top of that, they're calling in on this website for jukeboxes. And they're making all the bars play Rocky Top over and over. I mean, it's just nuts. It's trolling at a really high level.
Yeah. No, they're smart too, right? Like Tennessee gets the reputation of and really a lot of SEC programs, just these hillbillies, this, that. They are smart. I remember, it was a minor fraction of it, but I remember it from the College World Series. It was much smaller with baseball than it is with football, but I remember it, and they're pretty elite with it, and no, it's a lot of fun. So on the matchup, where do you feel like it's so hard because of the break? It's so hard because of how many weeks off it's been to really know this, but. Do you think Nico was playing some of his better ball toward the end of the year? It just seemed like it, he had ups and downs, but it felt like he was playing a little sharper.
Yeah, he progressed through the year. Now he's a freshman. This is his first season of actually playing college football. So, there's going to, and plus he's 6'6". And for some reason, which obvious reasons, a tall quarterback, they progress, takes a little longer because they're a little bit gangly. They're not as, put together, so to speak. And he started out a little sluggish at times once we started the real season. I don't consider the first couple of games that big a deal. But he started getting better and better. He wound up throwing 65% completion rate with like 19 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, which is about 4-1. You need to be at least 3-1 to be comfortable. And he started running the ball. He ran for about 400 yards this year. He's pretty fleet-footed for a 6'6" dude. I mean, it shocked me. Several times he took off. I went, dang. But at that height, he could get hurt pretty easily. So I don't like him to run too much. I don't think Heupel's thrilled about it either. So, I think he's playing his best ball. Yes. If long way around to answer your question.
Ohio State has just been weird offensively. In talking with Zach the other day, again, we'll link that at the end for the Tennessee folks watching that want to know what the heck we're talking about here. But in Zach talking, Ohio State's offense has been so weird. And I don't know if that's Ryan Day or they're just not comfortable with their quarterback, Howard, or what the situation is. But there is no denying how good their wide receivers are. Just insanely good. Obviously, Jeremiah Smith gets a lot of the love as a true freshman. If I had an early Heisman, Allie and I did a show last night on a new channel that we started. He's my early Heisman pick for next year. Not to upset the Nico fans out here, but he's my early Heisman pick next year because they don't play anybody all year, and I just think he's going to have a billion touchdowns as a sophomore. But how we've talked a lot about Tennessee's defense this year when you've come on, but just thoughts on how the secondary matches up with like the best part of Ohio State's team, that wide receiver unit.
I looked at Will Howard. Because obviously he's the key. Because I don't care how good your wide receivers are, if he can't get him the ball, it won't really matter. And his numbers were pretty solid this year. He's 72%, which is great. I mean, he's been playing ball a long time. He's a great runner, 28 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. But I looked at the Michigan game, and he threw 57% for 175 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. And I'm going, how good is he against top talent? Like Michigan has good defenders. Certainly on the line, and they've got some good defensive backs. So I'm thinking, and we are good on both levels. We're not as good in the secondary as we are on the front, but we're pretty darn good. So I'm wondering I know they've got great wide receivers. It's absurd. They're an embarrassment of riches at wide receiver. We fight with them for a 5-star wide receiver every year. And for some reason, they go there. And I'm going, why are you doing that? Why? Yeah. You could be our number 1 wide receiver. You're going to go there and be the number 5 guy. But they do it. They do it every time. So I think Will is going to be the key. And we've got to if we don't put pressure on him, they're going to hurt us.
Yeah. It feels like, everything goes back to what Zach and I talked about. But again, we were so impressed with this interview. Tennessee is built for, the question was always, can an SEC team go up north and play? But a team that runs the ball really well. He's really high on Sampson. I've been really high on Sampson. I know you are. And a team that plays really good defense. Like if that defensive front can get pressure, and if the offensive line can open up the right holes for Sampson, he's going to hit them. He's going to do what he does. I do think that that's Tennessee's best path. Like as much as we talk about Nico or we talk about the secondary, like if they can just limit Ohio State offensively in some nasty weather, which they should be able to. But then obviously they have to go out and score. Tennessee's offense at times has gone kind of anemic. You think about the first half of the Florida game, the second half of the Georgia game. Obviously those are, very different teams in very different situations. But if they can run the ball at all in the shoe or in Neyland North, wherever, I think they'll have a pretty good shot. And I don't know, maybe it's asking a lot of Sampson, but to me, he's kind of the key there on the offensive side of the ball.
I think he'll run well. And the reason I say that, it's not only he had a stupid number of touchdowns this year, 22, which broke every record. He ran for almost 1,500 yards. But the key thing that he did that made me realize this guy can perform no matter what, he ran for over 100 yards at Georgia, and Georgia, their fan base was waiting for us. I mean, they were ready to destroy. And he ran for over 100 yards, and they threw everything at him. Big part of it is he's a great runner. He is incredibly hard to tackle, but Josh Heupel spreads that offense out. So you can't put 7 guys in the box or 6. You got to have 5, 6 at tops. And if he has any room, any grass, you're going to miss him. You're going to miss him, and he's going to get his 5-yard average. So I think he'll get his 100 yards. The big question is, can we stop their? Can our secondary stop their offense, and can we put pressure on them, because they're going to have home field advantage. The noise level is going to help them, not us. That is tricky because, oh man, I wish this was at Neyland.
Yeah,
Neyland.
Yeah, and we've seen that, right? Tennessee lost on the road to Arkansas, lost on the road to Georgia. When they played at home, now they did go in Oklahoma, which Oklahoma was this year for sure, but they did go in Oklahoma and win. But yeah, I feel like playing on the road's hard. Playing on the road in bad weather's hard when you're a team from Knoxville. Well, I guess Knoxville's not like Tampa, right? Like that's not as bad as being from Gainesville.
No, it's pretty cold up here, so
yeah.
we're used to it, but it'll be colder than we're used to.
Yeah, and then nobody likes playing in those weather conditions, right? Starting fast, it feels like whichever team that in a bad weather game, in a game that's just miserable cold, it does feel like if either team got a 2-score lead in this thing, it would be pretty hard because both teams have good rushing attacks and both teams have good defenses.
Yeah. The thing I see about this game, if Tennessee could get off to a good start, I'm wondering how the fan base will react. Now, if they get off to a good start, I expect the Ohio fans to be ready to roll right from the get-go, and they're going to be fired up. But if we were to somehow get a good lead of some sort, 10, 14 points, I'm wondering how they react to that and how our crowd reacts and how many. I'm really hoping that we can get 20, 25,000 people in there because that would make a big difference. That happened in the LSU game in 2022. We did this take over the stadium thing, and we got like 20,000, 25,000 down there, and it made a big difference as far as, because that's a really hard place to play down there.
Yeah.
And it seemed to help us a lot. Now, it helped also that it was 11 o'clock in the morning when that game started, and in Louisiana land, that's not a good time for them to have ball.
No, they're all still hungover from
exactly.
the night before.
So that helped us a bunch too, but that's really my question mark is, how do the players feel? Now, they've got everything in the world to play for, but do they believe in this coach? Do they believe in Ryan Day? Because if they don't, things could go bad and they could say, I'm sick of this guy. Maybe if we don't win this game, they'll get rid of him. Yeah. And I know that's crazy to think, but athletes are funny characters. If they don't believe in their leader, it's almost like the military. You need to believe in your leader. Otherwise, you're not going to play to your max.
Yeah. Because it can go one of two ways. Like they've heard all of the noise since that Michigan game, right? Like they've heard what everybody on social media is saying. They've heard what every media pundit says and every YouTuber, like they've heard all that stuff. And that can go one of two ways. Like it can cause a lot of doubt, or it can galvanize the team if they do still believe in him. Like, hey, we'll go out and prove everybody wrong and we'll show you that we fight for this guy, right? Like I think about Florida. Like we all fired Billy Napier. We all made 5 videos about why he was getting fired. And their team, it makes me sick, and I'm sure it makes you sick to hear it too, but credit to their team, it did galvanize their team. And they did fight for him. And I don't like them. I wish they wouldn't have, but they fought for that guy and saved his job, right? And so I don't know which way it'll go for Ohio State, but you're right. Like if they get down a few scores, does it start to think like, oh wait, this is Michigan part 2. Like this is it. We're in another big game. We're going to blow it. So I don't know.
Yeah, I like I said, I've seen that happen. And, I think the big thing that helped Florida the most was DJ Lagway. I think there was a lot of belief in him amongst the players. I don't know that we have that same dynamic with Ohio State because I'm not a big believer in Billy Napier long term. I'll just go ahead and tell you. I'm not a big believer. I think Ryan Day is really intelligent. He's articulate. But there's something Butch Jones about him that is off-putting that I didn't realize. I kept defending him. He was winning 87%. What's the problem? Why are you so upset with him? He looks great when he interviews. there's something there that's a little butchy that I've noticed with him saying, the goal of this year was to get in the playoff, and we've done it. And I'm going, wait a minute.
Yeah.
No, it's not. Not
Yeah,
at
not
Ohio
it.
State, it's not. It would be at Syracuse. It
Sure.
would be at,
Georgia
Miami
Tech,
this
yeah.
year. But
Yeah.
not at Ohio State.
Different expectations, especially when you keep dropping to your biggest rival over and over and over.
God.
And if there was ever a year, like if Michigan was 9-3 or 10-2, it would have been bad. But if there was ever a year where you couldn't lose to Michigan, it was this one, right? Last year, I don't even think they cared that they lost to Michigan because, Michigan won the national title. Like that's what, all right, it's a little early. It's Tuesday afternoon. What do you think happens here? Have you done a prediction? Do you think Tennessee pulls it off? What's your heart and your head saying?
Oh boy, I tell you, it's really hard to win on the road against a quality team like this. So my head says they'll probably pull it out against us, but I question that Ryan Day situation and the way Tennessee is infiltrating that stadium with their fan base and how that's going to impact our players. If they can turn it into an almost neutral setting, I change my opinion. I say if we get to 30% of that fan base there, I think we can win that ball game.
Yeah. Jay, where can people follow you? Where can they find your work, bud?
Just Sports Talk Jay on YouTube. That's the only place.
Awesome. I appreciate you, buddy.
Yep, no worries.